My efforts and devotion have not been sufficient to bring our people out of difficult livelihoods. I'm ashamed that I have never been able to repay you properly for your enormous trust.
Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un insists his country is entirely COVID-free. But even if that's true, the economy has been hammered after being cut off from the world since January. That's when trade routes across its porous border with China were shut down to shut out the virus.
The North Korean economy has come to a halt. Smugglers and small traders at the border have questioned why the regime is risking the fate of the economy if there's no COVID-19 in the country. Some factories are shutting down, and many workers are not getting paid.
But despite the lockdown and the sanctions, the country has found money for the development of nuclear weapons and brand new long-range missiles to deliver them. The very latest, the unveiling of which played a centre stage during the birthday celebrations, have been developed at an unprecedented speed.
They are experts at securing the materials they need and rapidly producing the technology they want.
But after years now of increased US and South Korean engagement with the North, the sharing of warm words, handshakes and long flattering letters, some fear the race to stop the most roguish of rogue states developing strategic nuclear weapons is probably already over.
Like it or not, North Korea is a nuclear power and is probably the third nuclear power capable of striking American cities.
How dangerous is North Korea? The possibility of a nuclear conflagration. Sabre-rattling, where are we with North Korea at 75? Helping us to stride confidently through this tense and fraught territory are Kathleen Stevens. She was US Ambassador to Seoul from 2008 to 2011 and has served in the State Department under Republican and Democratic presidents. She's now head of the Korea Economic Institute. Welcome to The Real Story, Ambassador Stevens. When you think about North Korea, what worries you most?
Thank you. There's a lot that worries me, but I would say that nuclear attack by North Korea or nuclear war on the Korean Peninsula is actually fairly low on my list. I would put up at the top unintended escalation, blowing up into a larger conflict, and that could have many scenarios.
Interesting, and perhaps we'll talk about some of those, I hope, during the course of the programme. Jean Lee is the director of the Korea programme at the Wilson Centre in Washington, D.C. She was formerly based in the North Korean capital, Pyongyang, as the bureau chief for Associated Press. Jean Lee, welcome to The Real Story. This is probably the most isolated country in the world that we're talking about. But what do you worry about when you think about North Korea?
Hi, great to join you. I think that isolation is a very good point. You know, I was there 10 years ago when Kim Jong-un made his debut at this party anniversary, and it really felt at that moment that North Korea was on the verge of opening up. That was actually when I started going in and negotiating to open the first and only U.S. news bureau in North Korea. And today, 10 years later, the country is more isolated than it has been in so many years, particularly compared to 10 years ago. And so I do worry about what's going to happen as North Korea deepens its isolation, not only for diplomacy, but for the North Korean people.
Fascinating. Well, let's hear from our third panellist, Tong Zhao, who's a senior fellow at the Carnegie Tsinghua Center for Global Policy in Beijing. Welcome to The Real Story, Tong Zhao. When you think about North Korea, what worries you?
Well, thank you so much for having me. I worry that North Korea may become a permanent nuclear-armed country, and its nuclear weapons will destabilize regional security, and the nuclear weapons would enable North Korea to continue being a very inward-looking, closed, and seclusive country that is bad news for its people and for the rest of the international community.
Well, there's some big concerns there. We will be talking about them throughout the hour. The Korean Peninsula, as it is today, emerged from the early days of the Cold War. In 1945, Japan's Emperor Hirohito surrendered to Allied forces, marking the end of the Second World War. That meant withdrawing from Korea, which it had occupied and run for 35 years. Two of the key players in the victorious alliance, the United States and the Soviet Union, agreed to help administer and rebuild the country, Washington taking charge in the south, while in the north, Moscow installed the communist leader Kim Il-sung.